Welcome to the MYS Virtual Hangout. Here's your host, MYS Music Director, Raul Gomez.
Okay. Naomi Margolis, who's watching, just let me know that my mic was muted this whole time. So it doesn't matter how many times I do this, there's always something that's going to happen. So, but you know what? I'm going to tell you all of that again because it's very important and it doesn't work if you can't hear me. And Valdine is just, she's just waiting. She's standing by. So Valdine, you'll have to give me another minute. See, too many buttons. I added this record player, which is a really cool thing, but that just kind of messes up my rhythm here. So, in any case, we're live, and we can just start again. And I will share all of those things with you with no less enthusiasm, because actually I'm very excited about all of them. So, in any case, I'm wondering if you could hear the music though. So I think you were able to hear what I was playing for you, and you saw me show this. So on the magical MYS record player, I was playing Borodin Symphony No. 2, conducted by Roberto Benzi and performed by the National Orchestra of the Opera of Monte Carlo. I was saying this is an LP from 1971, and it's a piece that's rarely heard live, at least in my experience. So very happy to share this with you. I was also saying that this is our 39th Hangout. It's crazy how time has just flown by over the last very strange few months. And then finally, I was sharing with you all about Valdine Mishkin, our guest this afternoon. So I'll just give you maybe a quicker overview because I cannot wait to talk with her. Valdine Mishkin is an amazing cellist. She's an amazing teacher. She's very active as a player with new music groups here in Portland, like Third Angle and Fear No Music. She's a first call extra with the Oregon Symphony. She does a lot of solo work. She plays Latin American music with her duo Apasionado. And she teaches at Willamette University and has a fantastic private studio. Okay? She's on the board of the Oregon Cello Society and the Oregon chapter of the American String Teachers Association. She does it all. And now that I've said that again, this should now work. Let's welcome Dr. Valdine Mishkin into the Hangout. Valdine, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
And I can hear you and I can see you. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just amazed at what you're doing with this platform and reaching out to the kids. And I mean, it's just amazing. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us. How's it going? I mean, you're always so busy, and every time I see you on stage, or, when we were able to, I guess, be on stage, I was always just amazed. And every time I hear one of your students, whether at an MYS audition or performing, for competitions or on the radio and all classical, I'm just floored. So what aspects of all of that have you been able to bring with you into this new world we live in?
Well, it feels like almost nothing has stopped, really. I just kept going with all of the online teaching and doing, FaceTime or that kind of thing. And it's a transition for most people, but I find there's some benefits to it that, the kid has to be more independent and all that. So I think the online lessons have been going well, and that's just going to continue through summer.
Right.
And the thing that was most unexpected was all this live stream, so I've been practicing my tail off, which is actually really, really motivating. We had some projects solo music that I've wanted to learn, and I got to play a few of those concerts. So, and of course, all the technology. I was telling you earlier that I am stuck in the 1990s, maybe, with my knowledge of technology. So I've tried to up my game a little bit here and get some recording equipment and some lights and things like that. So it's been fun. It's been a learning curve.
Right. Yeah, I was about to ask. And so often, younger kids they're so much more in tune with, technology and all these different platforms.
Yeah, I'm constantly asking my students for advice. I'm like, can you tell me, I'm that strange generation, Xennials, I think we're called, where I'm like right between Gen X and millennials, where I went through high school without internet,
Right,
without
right.
Hangout,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then through college started. So, I'm definitely a rookie at all this, and I spent too much time in a practice room. So,
Did you graduate high school in the late 90s or mid?
yeah, so mid 90s, and then I went to McGill. I'm Canadian, by the way. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, better known as Winterpeg,
Huh.
and there was a good 6 months of winter there, very cold.
Yeah.
My mom used to always say it breeds a lot of musicians because we have to stay indoors so much and practice.
Sure, sure.
But then I went to McGill in Montreal for my undergrad, and then I moved down to Houston, Texas, and did my master's at Rice, and then finally my doctorate there. So, I studied my doctorate with Lynn Harrell, who I haven't had a chance to dedicate something to him. So maybe talking about the teaching is Lynn Harrell passed away a couple months ago. So
Yeah, in April.
yes. So my teacher for my doctoral degree. So there's been a lot of ups and downs, but it is what it is. We're trying to do the best with what we can, right?
Yeah. And by the way, I've never been to Winnipeg, but I love Montreal.
Yes.
And I've only been there in the summer also.
Oh yes, it's pretty cold in the winter. I mean, it's a different kind of cold. It's that wet, to your bones type of cold. But it was a great city to do a degree in. It was fun.
Yeah. I love just kind of the culture, the mix of cultures that you find there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Such a cool town.
And I had a lot of opportunities at McGill. I did some singing there. I was in choirs, orchestra, string quartet. I mean, it was just a great place to be.
Yeah.
Great university. Yeah.
Speaking of Canada, there's something that caught my attention in your bio, and it says that you played as a soloist when you were 10 years old with the Winnipeg Symphony.
Yeah.
Was that you win a competition? How did that happen?
Well, in Winnipeg, I should back up and say I'm a Suzuki student and, started very young. And so they did a concert for kids, the Winnipeg Symphony, and they had all the Suzuki, traditional group performances, but then they had a few soloists play. And so I got to play with the symphony as a soloist, and that was pretty amazing.
Do you remember you probably remember what piece you played.
Goodness. Well, it was an arrangement of Danse Rustique. It wasn't anything, it wasn't a big concerto, but I still have that handwritten score of what the orchestra played, the arrangement and everything, and yeah.
Do you remember how you felt as a 10-year-old doing that?
I think back on that a lot, and I was just in the present. It was just normal. I don't remember being nervous. In Winnipeg, there's a ton of amateur or student competitions. Like, I was playing at least, 10, 20 competitions a year.
Yeah.
So they had a very avid Winnipeg competition festival where I would do voice classes, piano classes, and cello classes, and it was this wild thing where for 2-3 weeks you'd be just going around doing all sorts of classes, and so yeah, competition kid for sure.
Was there music in your home growing up? Are your parents musicians?
Well, my mom was a music teacher, piano and voice, and my dad retired now, but a minister. So there was a lot of music at church, and I would always be called in, be like, hey, just harmonize with this, or so I was just used to just being constantly in the limelight.
Yeah.
And I look back at it now and go, boy, it just rolled off my shoulders now. How come now I'm a little more serious about my nerves. So.
When did you know, if you knew at all, that you were going to become a professional musician, basically do this for a living?
I don't know if I ever considered anything else. I don't feel like I ever had an interest other than cello that was like, oh, in case cello falls through, I'll do this. It was just everything, every minute of my time as a teenager was practicing or being in choir, orchestra, jazz band, you know, all that. I mean, I did everything that I could get my hands on, musical theater, everything.
As in singing and acting and performing?
Yeah, like being Oliver and Oliver, or being, you know, the narrator in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. What else did we do? We did all sorts of things. So every year, some musical. I don't know. I just love variety. I love doing a little bit of everything.
Well, and you, I mean, in your musical work now, you still kind of do just that, right?
I was going to mention too that I feel that having had all those opportunities to just kind of jump in there and learn a different style, like being a jazz combo or do big band style and singing and, you know, things, I just was able to really grab on to so many styles and have experience with so many styles. So, I wouldn't change a thing, I think, with my upbringing in Winnipeg in terms of being so involved with everything. It's very different than the States, I find that way, or maybe just a small town, you know, Winnipeg. I'm not sure, I didn't experience anything else, but...
Sure, but different in just, in what way? What do you mean?
Well, I feel it's more an emphasis on being an expert at a young age now, that you're a cellist and you spend all your time being a cellist, and there's not a lot of you know, having a secondary instrument, like learning piano alongside.
Sure, okay.
Doing, well, actually your program and PYP also doing the theory, that was something part of my life too, music theory and harmony and history and all that. We're part of the Royal Conservatory system, doing exams all the time, and so just feel like it was a great whole experience, and just to develop yourself as a musician.
Yeah.
And then when you get really serious about this particular skill you have, this particular niche of a type of cello music,
right?
That strikes me now in my, you know, my 40s, that is so. I didn't really pick up on that when I was a kid.
Yeah. What brought you to Portland?
Cellists, and there's chamber cellists, and there's solo cellists, and
right. Yeah. And what brought you to Portland?
Well, I met my husband in Houston, and we just did not feel like we fit in Houston, and he had gone to the University of Oregon for one of his degrees. So when we met and we were getting serious, he said, you know, it's a deal breaker if you don't want to move to the Pacific Northwest somewhere. And I was like, no, I'd love to, you know, I love that. So we just picked up and moved here. I think it was 2008. And as soon as you could get a job here, and then I had a couple little kids. I had a kid when 11-month-old when I first moved here. So my first 5 years were, you know, taking care of kids, but I did teach a bit there too.
So this kid is now what, 13?
So I have a 13-year-old boy and an 11-year-old boy now. So yeah, and being in Portland with two little young kids, the people I first met actually were Suzuki teachers and early childhood teachers. And so that's kind of how I got. And I had done a lot of Suzuki training in the summers. I was just fascinated by being able to take these courses and just learn from these master teachers on like how to hold your hand or how to teach this particular way. So all that Suzuki training actually was very beneficial here. It was something that was needed.
Yeah.
And so when I started teaching here, I had all the teeny littles, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. Yeah, along with my own children, you know, they were part of the classes too.
So your kids play as well?
Yes, they both
cello,
do
both of them.
Although I'm not a stickler in practicing, it's more for fun, I think. For them.
Sure. Yeah, it's like walking that line, right, between and a bunch of, you know, musicians whose children also play instruments have shared with me that, you know, you want to kind of like, you want them to practice, right, but you don't want to like be like push them so hard that it will have the opposite effect.
Yeah, you know, my mom, she was amazing at structure. So I had 7 o'clock on the dot every night. I practiced from 7 till 10, and no way of getting out of that. Like, it was every day 7 to 10, except the day of my lessons, where I did like several lessons in a row, and that was my day off.
Ah, okay.
So I think structure is something that I struggle with my own children, because at the end of the day, I've taught a bunch of students, and if they don't really want to do it, I didn't have the fortitude.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Valdine, before we get any further here, there are two things I'd like to get to. One of them is you're going to play a piece of music for us. But before we do that, let's set up the game that we play on this show, Two Truths and a Lie. Okay? So you sent 3 statements our way. And, of course, 2 of them are truths, and one of them is a lie. And today, for this Hangout, I am going to be trying to guess which one of these statements is a lie. Okay? So I have now put those up here, or I'm about to reveal those on the screen, and I'm going to read them out loud for both of us. And as I read them also, if you're watching and you want to play along, feel free to vote on the comments for which statement you believe is a lie. Okay? So Valdine, here's what you sent us. And again, if you're watching, I have no idea which of these is actually a lie. So, statement A, it says here, Valdine acted in the Barney movie as a cellist, bassist, saxophonist, and trumpet player. Is this Barney as in Barney the dinosaur?
The purple dinosaur.
Okay, all right. So that's statement. That's statement A.
You have a young girl. Is Barney no longer part of your life?
Well, maybe not yet part of my life, because she's only 15 months old.
Oh, Barney, man.
So,
Okay.
but,
Go on.
okay, so statement B. Valdine played at a private event for the then presidential candidate Barack Obama and missed hearing his speech. Okay? Now, statement C. Valdine, at the end of high school, almost decided to pursue professional training with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet instead of studying cello at McGill University. Okay, so now, let me ask you a few things about these statements, okay? And I guess if I ask you about the lie, you're going to have to bluff or something. Okay, so Barney, the dinosaur, and several instruments here, cello, bass, saxophone, and trumpet player. And, you've shared that you used to do lots of different things growing up, and some musical theater. So maybe there's a chance that somehow you got recruited or something. So I think that's possible. Okay, so B, it's pretty specific because you're mentioning missing his speech. So that bit of specificity adds credibility to this statement. And then C, also kind of same thing. Now, I know now that you used to do all kinds of things growing up. So this is actually not an impossibility at all. So, all right. So I'll think about these. Okay.
Okay.
I'll have to make up my mind as we go. Maybe I'll try to dig more bits of information from you as we go along. Maybe I'll get you to reveal something accidentally. Okay.
Okay.
So now, I think, I can speak for myself, but I think I can also speak for our MYS students who are watching. We would really love to hear you play. And you've been very kind to offer a short live performance for us. So would you mind introducing the piece, and then we'll hear you play it?
Sure. So this is always a favorite of my students, and I love playing it too. So it's Julio by Mark Summer. And Mark Summer was a cellist, the founding cellist of the Turtle Island Quartet. And that's a string quartet that was kind of known for fusing rock and jazz and popular music with classical music. So and that's back in like the 80s. This piece was 1988. And so when it was written, this is, even still, I think it's a pretty standalone piece in terms of its fusion with jazz and popular idioms. And so this one has a bunch of little special effects like hammered fingers, finger slides, all sorts of strumming techniques. So it's really fun.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so here we go, Julio.
Yes, nice.
Is that a fun one?
Very, very
Thank
cool.
you.
This was Valdine Mishkin performing Julio by Mark Sommer. I grew up listening to the Turtle Island String Quartet. I mean, trailblazers, right?
So innovative, love it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on now. I mean, it's just amazing. All the cross pollination, all the new music. I'm just floored all the time that how interesting it is and how how it's evolving so much. So anyway, I love playing this one where I feel it's a little bit of the root of this kind of style we're in now. I think with a lot of Americana type composer, that use indigenous styles or jazz or anything.
Yeah. So the two current violinists with the Turtle Island String Quartet, Jeremy Kittle and Alex Hargrave, are both just extraordinary virtuoso fiddlers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're jazz musicians. They're just like incredible, super solid technique. But I actually met both of them at a fiddle camp
Oh, wow.
in
That's
Columbus.
something I've never done is fiddle camp. I want to do that one day.
They're
Add
so
that to the
fun.
list.
And
Yeah.
this was in 2008 in Columbus, Ohio. Chris House, who's a jazz violinist and educator, this is his camp. Now it's like this big thing. Back then, maybe this was like the second or third year. So
Wow.
he was bringing together all these fiddlers as faculty, right? And Alex Hargraves was like, he must have been like 16 or 17, right? But he was like a guest artist. I mean, he was already national fiddling champion or something. Alex Contreras, who's in Nashville also. So my mind just exploded listening to these guys play. I was there. I was older than them, but I was a student at the fiddle camp just because
Yeah.
I wanted to, I guess, and Chris Thiele and now playing with Yo-Yo Ma and Edgar Meyer and all, just that level of artistry within this style of music is just so cool to experience.
Definitely. And I love that because of all the styles kind of crossing now and that, everybody has major chops. I mean, I think it's just so worth it to just kind of go in different places now. It's not just get an orchestra job, just,
Yeah.
this type of thing. Love it.
Well, let me ask you about that in relation to your teaching.
Sure.
I'll share with you that in my role as music director of MYS, and I do very little private teaching, very very limited. But I'm always kind of pondering the balance between teaching the old masters and the traditional Western styles and idioms of classical music, and all of this that we're talking about, this that you play, all these new styles of Americana and fiddling. So how do you navigate that, if at all, in your teaching?
Well, I'm a big believer that you should study a lot of variety. I throw a lot of repertoire at my students. I'm of the pedagogical idea that it shouldn't feel impossible. You shouldn't be working on something that takes you 2 years to master,
Okay.
right? And so I think just coming from that Suzuki background and saying, keep learning all these pieces, keep playing them, keep mastering them. Think of music as a language, not as a skill set, things like that. So, and then I was mentioning Royal Conservatory before. That's the system in Canada. You have to do one of each style, something, romantic, classical, Baroque, and then something either Canadian content or, something folky or whatever. You have all sorts of these other alternatives that you could do. So I always grew up just having to do a little of everything. And so, with my students, I have them do the ABRSM exams, some of them the older ones, and they have to do the same thing. That's the British system. And with the students, I'm definitely not teaching them fiddling because I'm not, I have no idea. But things like Julio that I love teaching, and
Something like exactly. What
having them go online on YouTube, and I don't know if you've seen Kevin Olusola's one. He's the singer with Pentatonics, and he does beatboxing while he plays this, and it's amazing. There's so many different recordings that you can now access, and I just give it to them and say, hey, listen to a whole bunch, listen to, not just Julio, listen to jazz or listen, and then see if you can kind of come up with some arguments on your style choices or what is it based on. So I love exploring those types of things. I work a lot on musicianship with my students. Of course, the beginning of the lesson is always like technique and whatnot, but I do both. I'm definitely not a traditional Suzuki teacher. I do teach the reading and all that stuff,
Sure.
But in terms of repertoire, we do a lot of variety.
Have you had any long-term students, like kids that you taught from when you got here and then for several years?
Yeah, so Kira Wong, she is 15 now. She was one of my first students when I was here. She was 5 when she started with me. And so let me see who else is Soren. There's a bunch of students. Oh, you might know Soren. There you go. And they've been with me, well, a lot of them since they were 4.
So, and my question is, what does it mean to you to guide them through such a long period of time? Like, because I would imagine that at the same time you're, of course, a teacher and a mentor and a guide, but you're also witnessing.
Right. It's very unusual
growth.
to have your beginner teacher be your polishing teacher. And it came from being in Houston when I was teaching like 40 students, and I had to do so much repair work. So because their initial introduction to the instrument was not individualized, or it was, tension issues weren't addressed, or they thought, oh, I'm just going to dabble in cello a little bit and not have somebody who's really has training as a teacher, not just a great player, but training as a teacher on how to do things. And when I started doing those Suzuki trainings, like I had no idea how I did things. It was transformative for me because I just discovered so much about myself. Same with teaching. I discovered, like, how do I explain that to somebody? So I became really interested in making sure that the students started young, that I got them before you hit that kind of 6-year-old frame when their minds have, their brains have already kind of scaffolded. I want to get them before that language has kind of turned into English or reading or, the traditional things. I want to get them where they're like, this is the cello and these are beautiful sounds. And I'm going to have beautiful technique that's easy on my body, that works. I was just tired of repair. So I just said, it might not be the most glamorous or the most respected area of teaching, but I feel it's definitely the most important.
Well, and I think it's so cool that you have all of this training and background, and you're able to work with such young kids and build without them even knowing that you're doing it. You're building their technical, apparatus. But at the same time, you did a DMA with Lynn Harrell,
right,
at Rice, which is sort of the total, like other end.
It is, yes. And when I had kids, I got into this, so, a little bit personal, but I got into this idea of, now I'm raising children. It's impossible for me to keep playing at this level. I basically was like, okay, I'm retiring. I was like, I didn't realize how much work young children are, particularly if my husband's working like 12 hours a day type of thing. So,
and not two of them too.
Yes, 2 of them. Yes. And the second one was quite wild. And so, yes, watch out. And so I guess, and also it was a little bit of who I was around, because I was so involved with my children being in music and doing the Suzuki early childhood classes. It just was kind of where I was needed. And I'm a little bit of a yes person. Like, I don't initiate a lot, but somebody asks me to do something, I'm like, yeah, I can make that work. And so it just kind of became my reputation here. So, doing the college teaching and then having those young students at like age 9, 10, starting to play concertos. That's when it started to get noticed that, oh, I actually can teach this level. So it was a little bit of a tricky transition for me. But I still believe that those are my 2 important skills that I need to, pass along. The very young and then the finishing towards college. Those are my 2 kind of specialties, I think, at this point.
Can we talk about your time with Lynn Harrell? What elements of his teaching do you feel you have incorporated into your teaching?
Well, he was fantastic at engaging you with a lot of different ideas on sound. His father was a singer, a opera singer with the Met, and it was constantly searching for new colors and volume, impact. So I don't think I really had much technique work with him, but more so tricks and fun solutions to things. Like we'd work through, I have all sorts of, I always call them Lynn Harrells, and I would, take tons of bow and go pow, and just be completely dramatic. And so my time with him was a lot of just getting into repertoire and just kind of finding unusual and my voice. I think I really got my voice back when I was studying with Lynn Harrell. I'd kind of gotten a little bit focused into more so technique and being a clean orchestral player and being a technician, and then coming back to somebody who was, such a avid performer, of course, just kind of lit my imagination a little bit more. And it's been a transition. I feel like I'm getting back to where I was now that the kids don't need me as much. Life kind of did it for me.
Right. And Rice is known as, of course, one of the best music schools and conservatories in the country, but also as a very strong orchestral training, school.
Yes.
Is that, I guess I'm curious to know if as a doctoral student there's as much emphasis on orchestral training as undergrad and masters, or not? Are you more
in the doctoral program, because I'd done my master's there also with Norman Fisher, who was also an amazing teacher, and you're required to do a certain amount of semesters in the orchestra repertoire class, which was not my favorite class, but but it was really tough class. Like you would say, next week we're going to play Ein Heldenleben excerpts all in a circle for one another individually. Like it was just super high stress and productivity. And so that class was hard for me, but the orchestra itself was just a Larry Ratcliffe amazing. Like the amount of detail and musicianship of the just the oneness of the group. So the standards that we are held to, I think and then of course attracting the best of the best. Their scholarship program, they pulled me I had been accepted to Juilliard, and they pulled me in with the full scholarship and the advanced academics and the, Larry calling me. I mean, it was just, it was fantastic that they're just, it's just that kind of environment. It's very nurturing and very serene out there.
Yeah. I told this story to another guest weeks ago on the Hangout when talking about Rice, and it's about Larry Ratcliffe. I went to Aspen to the conducting academy, and he was one of the conducting teachers for the American Academy of Conducting at Aspen.
Great.
And just that one summer, I learned so much from him, and I will forever be thankful for that learning. But what I want to share with you is that summer, it was 2011 in Aspen, Larry conducted one of my favorite concerts ever that I've ever experienced, that I've ever witnessed. He conducted the Aspen Festival Orchestra, Beethoven Symphony No. 6.
I played that with him.
It's a hard piece.
Yeah.
It's a hard piece to just transcend the notes and create magic. There are pieces that it's kind of easier to do that, but Beethoven 6 is very kind of elusive, I believe. Yes. And every single moment of that piece, the way he conducted it, like the way he, just like you're saying, brought the orchestra together with such cohesiveness, but at the same time with room for actual music making. That single concert, I will never forget it. It was magical. It was so magical that during the flute solo, the bird flute solo, actual birds started to sing.
Oh, wow.
I kid you not. And people just kind of started like looking around and smiling. So even the birds.
Is this like some piped in, wow.
They were real birds. It was very, very special. So anyways, I everybody I know who's been through Rise, has benefited tremendously from that training, as well, the amazing faculty and just the rest of, your peers.
Yeah.
Going through the same things you're going. Okay, so Valdine, let's go back to your two truths and lie. Let me try see if I can crack this
Okay.
open. So if you're watching, I am going to be trying to figure out which of these three statements is a lie that Valdine sent to us. And if you'd like to participate, you can also vote on the live comments. And the statements are, I'm going to read these out loud again. Statement A, Valdine acted in the Barney movie as a cellist, bassist, saxophonist, and trumpet player. Statement B, Valdine played at a private event for then presidential candidate Barack Obama and missed hearing his speech. In statement C, at the end of high school, Valdine almost decided to pursue professional training with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet instead of studying cello at McGill University. Okay, so Valdine, I am going to try to eliminate one of these three statements and identify it as truth.
Okay.
And I will say, actually, this might be make or break, because if I get it wrong, actually, then we will know the rest. So I'll tell you what. I'll just guess which one I think is the lie. We'll just do that. Okay.
Okay.
So, only because I didn't think you've mentioned ballet at all, and I haven't read anything about that, I'm going to say that C is the lie.
You are correct. Although I did train with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet until I was about 11.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and I did jazz and tap and all that stuff too, and I had to quit because of the time conflicts. It's partially truthful. I almost went to McGill for voice. I almost became a singer.
Oh, you...
So it was pretty much just a tweak of what was real.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's also why it was, all three of these statements are so good. So you did, as a young girl, you did do ballet.
Yes.
And
yes, some very serious ballet.
You mentioned that, so you sang in choirs, also growing up in Winnipeg.
Yes.
So it sounds like you were pretty serious then about your singing.
Yeah, my mom being a singer, she really pushed me. She was the one that really wanted me to become the singer. I never, I kind of felt my identity as a performer. I'm maybe not as extroverted as necessary to be a coloratura or a lyric soprano. I did continue some lessons, and I did sing in the chamber choir, at McGill. So I did get to sing with all of the majors there, and I did actually hold a job as the paid soprano in a church choir. So it would be the ringer type of thing. So I did kind of, and I took languages. I took Italian and German and what am I missing? French I did in school. And so I was preparing to possibly morph into singing, but I knew then that it wasn't me. It was, yeah.
Nancy Ives wrote a piece or a set of pieces for cello and voice. And haven't you performed those? Or
Yes. So that's a great story. So my mom unfortunately has passed away from breast cancer, and she really, really wanted me to sing. And so she made me promise, I can't remember when, she was very persistent, that I returned to voice. And I said, okay, when I'm 40, I will try to complete, I got to deal with my life right now, but in the future, I will try, because I did up to grade 10 voice, and there's just one more exam to do to get your diploma from Royal Conservatory. So she just really wanted me to wallpaper the wall with diplomas. And so, anyway, then hearing about Nancy doing all this singing cellist, I'm like, oh my gosh. I kept bending her ear about it and asking, and then at one concert, I was playing for a Fear No Music concert. She was there, and I asked her, I said, Third Angle is doing this concert about global warming, about climate change, and can you think of any solo cello pieces that might fall into that category? And at the end of the concert, she said, I'm going to write a piece for you. So she just asked me what my vocal range was, what my breaking point was, my range, all sorts of things. And out came this miraculous piece. It's just amazing. It's actually going to be aired. My performance of it from September is going to be aired tomorrow at the New Music Gathering for Third Angle. A couple of other pieces too.
Nice.
And then the most amazing, I didn't tell you this either. My husband surprised me with a birthday commission, and he commissioned a companion piece for that, for Black Snow, Dark Ocean, called Fire, oh goodness, I'm forgetting, to go from Nancy. And then also another piece that sets Ralph Waldo Emerson poetry. My oldest son is named Emerson, and because we love Ralph Waldo Emerson. So anyway, it was very sweet. I have to get to recording that, and that's on the next project.
I mean, that's all very cool, but also I have to say, props to your husband for gift giving.
Yes, I just thought it's just so. I mean, what a way to just have something special, something that. That would be go on forever. I just
that's such an
and then Nancy's amazing.
Yeah,
you've heard that.
That's
stuff,
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I got to the lie. I was a little lucky there, but I got to it. So let's talk about the other two. Let's start with the Barack Obama event.
Yeah, so that was in Houston. It was a string quartet playing with some Houston Symphony members. And at that time, there was, I can't remember how many candidates. That was, oh my goodness, what year was that?
So it would have been like 2007?
I think I just had Emerson. So, so at that time, I was like, knowing the way the South is, we're in this Black Lives Matters movement right now. And I really felt that coming to the States, like feeling that difference in society.
Sure.
And I was like, there's no hope for this guy. He's amazing. But I mean, but it happened. When it happened, the photos of that event with him, he made it. It was just such an elation. I mean, I was just so, yes, way to go, you guys. Like, this is the way it needs to be. So
did you guys meet him at the event?
Yeah, he came up and said thank you and shook our hands and took a picture with us. He was amazing.
Very cool.
But and at that time I was like, oh, this guy has no hope. And, he's way too genuine. He's way too, So.
Yeah, and then I guess you guys had to leave, or you were not able to stay, and you.
Yeah, we were taking a break, and we were out, breaking, and I missed the speech.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of my big regrets. So, yeah.
Well, that's really cool that you met him. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then this should be, Valdine, at the very top of your bio, and it's not. So tell me about you acting in the Barney movie.
The Barney movie. Okay, so in Montreal, one of my best friends, Lena, she was friends with one of the, oh my gosh, what do you call them? The Grips or something like that at this Barney movie. And Montreal is actually a pretty hot spot for filming movies.
Sure.
So yeah, they hired us to be in this scene, this restaurant scene where we're a string quartet and we're all hoity-toity and whatnot, and then Barney comes in and he does a dance and we change into a jazz combo, and then there's silhouettes of me like playing trumpet and all this stuff. It's hilarious. And then we all the friends went, this is maybe the only feature-length Barney movie. We went to the theater as a group and watched it, and just howling in laughter. It was, but it was really informative too. I mean, that was amazing. So I just love dabbling in these little things and just learning about other industries. That's fascinating.
Were you like a feature extra, or do you get residuals from that?
No residuals. Yeah, we actually weren't playing. We were just fake playing.
Sure, right.
So, so there's no residuals. No.
Yeah.
But we were called special extras, so we got to eat the better food.
Yeah.
But
I was a special extra for the Best Picture Academy Award winner, 12 Years a Slave, as part of a string trio. And we
way.
This is a story for another time. What's that?
I'm gonna have to watch that again now.
Well, sure, and I'll tell you. I've told this story already in a previous hangout, but I'll tell it to
Okay.
you just later. But we also worked like air bowing to a Mendelssohn trio, and a few funny things happened. But that's a story for a different time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to look up the Barney movie now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, at 1998, I think it was. Yeah,
Okay, very good.
there you
Okay,
go.
uh, awesome. Okay, so Barney movie is true. Barack Obama is true.
Yeah.
Let's talk about not music
Okay.
for a moment. So, Dr. Mishkin, when you're not playing your cello or teaching, or I guess these days trying to homeschool your kids,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
what do you do for fun?
Well, my husband is a huge outdoorsman. That's, why we moved here. And so we go every summer, at least one water rafting trip and do camping and all that stuff. So that's pretty fun. And we hike a lot. That's why we're here, Pacific Northwest, to get outdoors. And then I've also kind of gotten a lot into cooking, like sauces and soups and all that stuff. So those are kind of, I'm a little bit of a homebody. So I home renovation projects where I'm kind of the one like designing it, and I just kind of dabble in a lot of those little things. But
Yeah.
heck, there's not a lot of free time, so I do my fair share of just vegging with Netflix or something. But
Sure, sure. So you live in West Lynn, right?
yes.
Do you guys have any favorite parks or like trails that are kind of close in?
Well, we just discovered a little trail that goes from our house down to the river, so that's been fun. But that's not a public one. It's just kind of in the back there. But we have a little wave runner. We stick it in the water, the river down the way a little bit, and but let's see, favorite hiking. We tend to do a little bit of a different one each time. I mean, one of my favorites though out in Bend is Smith Rock. That's kind of close to a Versada Ranch where we go to a bunch, and so
Cool, never been.
beautiful.
Do you guys have
Just these big rocks out of the middle of nowhere, and you climb all the way up them. It's beautiful. There's always all sorts of people doing rappelling and rock climbing and whatnot.
do you have pets?
I have Loki, my Siberian Husky. She is now like 15 and almost 15 and a half. Yeah, she's very senior. She was a rescue when we were in Houston. So we got her when she was approximately a year old. And
That's so
yeah,
sweet.
she's sweet. She's very cat-like in her personality. She's very aloof. Well, anybody who has a husky is well aware of that.
Yeah.
But but she's gorgeous. She's lovely.
That's sweet. We used to have two, and the older one left us last year.
What kind of dogs? Huskies?
No,
Or,
he was a boxer mix,
oh, I love boxers.
and the one that's still with us, she's a little terrier mix.
Oh.
So our choice of like trails and parks often, is dictated in a way by, the dog. We wanted them to be
Yes.
off leash and all of that.
Yeah, you cannot let a husky off leash. No way. They just bolt.
Yeah, even like did you see Loki?
Loki, yes,
In
that's
her-
the name she came with. God of mischief, apparently. She's not too mischievous for a
But
husky. I mean, she's
in
pretty
her
good.
in her senior age, she's still like
She can still, we take her on a walk every day. You've probably seen, all the comments that if you don't have a dog in quarantine, you're going to get one because just going out and walking all the time. So she's still very sprightly. She jumps up on things, and
That's so
you know,
sweet.
we get out of the house and she puts on a full run, like at the top of my speed. She's still really, really going for it.
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, and Valdine, finally, actually two more things here.
Okay.
Our segment that we call Sound Advice.
Yes.
And my question for you is, if you, Valdine Mishkin, could travel back in time and find your teenage self practicing cello or singing or doing whatever you were doing at that age, like high school age. What
Yeah.
advice would you have for yourself back in the, I guess you said early to mid 90s?
Yes, there we go. Grunge, yes. I would say to ask more details and more advice from artists, and you just finding out how they got there, how, people you admire. Find as many mentors as you can, ask them as many questions as you can. I find I'm still not quite aware of how to conduct this life as a musician, what the best way to do things. And I would ask for more advice. I was always very independent, and I would do exactly what my teacher said. And I was very dutiful and very, quiet. And I think I would have kind of sought it out a little bit more. Yeah. And also getting rid of the fear. Just fear has no place. It doesn't help you. So don't fear new opportunities. Don't fear speaking to an idol. That kind of thing. Just get out there and do it. So I would have told myself to have more confidence and more, more camaraderie and more connection with the stars, or even with, anybody that I heard anybody that I admired.
Yeah.
I wish I'd gone back and asked more.
That's great. I mean, asking questions is something that opens doors.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's great advice.
I tend to, reading Lynn Harrell's obituary, there were things in there that I didn't know about, and I wish I had asked him, like, so what was it like, being principal cello and then going on to, how did you do that? How did you go on to being a concert cellist? Or Norman Fisher, how did you get that record, recorded? And,
well,
who paid for it? Who did, like things like that, the nuts and bolts of how it's done.
And the truth is that most artists are happy to share and are happy to answer questions. Mm-hmm. At least, the good ones do.
Yeah. Yeah, because they all have, you tend to feel like the people who are so great were just born that way. And that's not the truth at all. It's constantly musicianship, talent, all of that is something that grows and that you foster and you build and experience. And so that feeling of you being here and they being there, and therefore you can't interact in that middle, I would get rid of that. Yeah. That's what I would love to go back and do.
Awesome. And then finally, Valdine, our segment, The Plug. And this is where we ask our guests to share about anything they want to bring attention to. And you already kind of mentioned a little something. So will you tell us more about what's happening tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow it's at 6 p.m. Pacific. It was supposed to, this is called New Music Gathering. It was supposed to be in Portland this year. And now it's virtual. But it is free. You can just sign up, or and I think it's going to be on YouTube also. But it's Third Angle. The amazing Sarah Tiedemann has been working her tail off, getting all these things organized. I did a bunch of little videos, kind of speaking about pieces, and we did a cool candle project. I mean, there's just been, you were on the candle project, and so it's. So it's 6 p.m. tomorrow, and Nancy's piece is going to be on there, Black Snow. And then also Kenji Bunch's Triple Jump with Chris White. That's from a previous performance. And now, while I'm blanking, oh my goodness, I think Sarah's doing something also too.
And what I'm showing right now on the screen, the Facebook page for New Music Gathering. So the best way to find this, if you're watching this, go to Facebook and just type what you see right there, New Music Gathering. You're going to get to that Facebook page, and just put an alert on your calendar to tune in and watch this. It's going to be really, really cool. I know I'm going to be watching. And all those amazing people you were just mentioning, Valdine, 3 out of 4 have been MYS Hangout guests.
There you go, see?
So we're all familiar with them and with their work. And I'm looking forward to watching this.
Yeah.
And so it's New Music Gathering, folks,
Yes.
if you're watching. And Valdine, I just want to thank you again for being so generous with your time and for being such a gracious host and for performing for us. It's been an absolute joy to chat with you. And we look forward to watching you tomorrow at the New Music Gathering live event, and hopefully very soon in person on stages all over town.
Yes. Who knows when that's going to happen? Thank you so much for having me. This was so great. I'm such a fan of what you're doing. So carry on.
Thank you, Valdine. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. And as always, thank you for watching. We have a bunch of amazing guests coming up as usual. I'm very excited to share with you that on Tuesday, June 30th, Daryl Hanks, the amazing bow maker, is going to be our guest. And I am so excited to talk with him about his craft. He's one of the best at what he does. And I'm hoping also he'll be able to give us a sort of a shop tour, a tour of his shop, in addition to sharing about what he does. Then Thursday, July 2nd, Subhashini Ganesan, the founder and executive director of New Expressive Works, will be on the show. She also holds the title Creative Laureate of Portland, and she's doing tremendous work for the arts in this town. And then on Tuesday, July 7th, the Breaking Winds Bassoon Quartet are going to be our guests. All four of them. It's going to be so fun. If you didn't know the Breaking Winds, go look them up. They're, again, a bassoon quartet, and they're so innovative with what they do. They have been doing this for a long time, and some of their covers of Lady Gaga have become truly viral with millions of views on the internet. And I also know them because we've worked together when I was back in New Orleans. So I'm super excited to have the Breaking Winds on Tuesday, July 7th. So thank you for watching. Go enjoy the beautiful weather. It's sunny Portland right now. And I will see you all Tuesday next week when we talk with Daryl Hanks. Bye.